Welcome to Current Conversations, the podcast where the pool deck meets real life. I'm Aubrey Bowles, a former Nova, Virginia, and Villanova swimmer, joined by Jeff Brown, the coach who pushed me through every lap. And today we dive beneath the surface of the sport we both love. Each episode, we sit down with guests from across the swimming world, athletes, coaches, and trailblazers to relive the moments that shaped them, the lessons learned between the lanes, and the memories that stick long after the water dries. Whether you grew up chasing the black line or you simply love a good story, you're in the right lane. Let's dive in. Our guest joining us on this episode is a 31-time ACC Swim Coach of the Year. He led UVA to 27 ACC team titles. He led the University of South Carolina men's team to a 15th place NCAA finish in 2018. And at NC State, he coached two of his swimmers who recorded a 1-2 finish in the mile at NCAAs. He was the USA head coach at the World University Games in 2001 and 2009 as well. He has coached 5 NCAA champion swimmers to 7 NCAA titles and 3 NCAA record performances. Whew. Let me take a break real quick. Let's keep going. He has coached 5 USA Olympians, four of whom earned gold medals. In 2018, he was inducted into the International Swim Coaches Association Hall of Fame. Everyone, please join me in welcoming Mark Bernardino.
Oh, you know, Aubrey, I got very fortunate. I had so many of Coach Jeff Brown's athletes join me at UVA, your teammates.
Not me, though.
Not you. That was a blessing for me. And you went to kind of my hometown school. I'm a Philly guy, so I grew up in Philly and been at Villanova many, many times.
I was going to ask because I did some research, and you were in the Cardinal O'Hara Hall of Fame there. Is that right?
I am, yeah.
So one of my teammates, he went to St. Joseph Prep, and I actually went to Cardinal O'Hara this past year to watch them playing football. And so it was a good time over there.
Yeah, good stuff. We have one of the things we were going to do tonight, and I warned Mark that we were going to do this, and I hope he has his glass in there. We're going to, in a shameless attempt to amuse people, we've got a segment tonight called Sipping and Swimming, and I certainly brought my thing here. I have a lemon martini that my wife made for me. So I'll start things off with, and we'll get into this more. So as this broadcast goes on, we all claim a complete lack of responsibility for any answers. And this is our get out of jail card. So you people out there get used to it. And here's a toast to all you guys.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. This is my good behavior cup right
here. Good Lord.
And in that good behavior cup, I have cranberry apple juice, and this is my bad behavior cup, and this is a nice Vino Rosso from Tuscany. And so be on the safe side, I won't drink out of the bottle, I'll just drink out of the cup.
Okay, that sounds good. And of course, I want to say that, in a shameless appeal here, mine was mixed with fresh Victor. This is all a joke, guys. Hey, Mark, first a confession. I'll tell you, I have mentally misspelled your name for years. I missed that second R.
Yeah, most people miss it.
Did you have any trouble spelling my last name?
No.
Okay. Does this admission change our relationship in any way? Do you think poorly of me that I missed it?
No, but I'll bet a lot of people misspell your first name.
Ding, ding, ding.
Well, ding, whatever. And then I have a second confession. I entirely missed your retirement announcement. I was like, we have to catch him between now. So I was like, oh my God, he's retired. Now, I can excuse you for missing mine. There's really no excuse for missing yours. So to quote a 1960s TV show, sorry about that, Chief. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We both missed each other's because I knew you had moved to South Carolina. The Shebleys had told me, but I assumed you were continuing to coach just in a less stressful manner, maybe.
There are very few teams down here, and there is absolutely no summer league swimming.
Interesting.
Came a little bit of a surprise. Savannah's nearby, and there's Hilton Head Aquatics out on the island.
I know we just talked about kind of Villanova is kind of your neck of the woods. So where are you living nowadays? Where are you currently residing?
I'm residing in Charlottesville. So it's the same house my wife and I raised our family in. Wow. We've been here since, I think this is our 37th year in this house. When I went to South Carolina, Terry stayed here. She had a really good position at the UVA hospital, and we kind of commuted for the last part of 11 years back and forth, weekends, or depending on her nursing schedule. If she had a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, she could come down to to Raleigh. It was a lot more difficult when it was Columbia, South Carolina to Charlottesville. But Coach McGee Moody was kind enough when I was at South Carolina to allow me to leave after Saturday mornings, and I didn't have to be back until Monday afternoon practice. So that made that trip pretty easy.
What was it, still a 8-hour drive?
I was 5.5. I was pretty good at it.
Okay, so you went the state gets shorter over there. I'm at the fat part of the state.
Yes, I would go straight up 77 to 85 right near Charlotte. So it was an hour and a half to Charlotte and 4 to 4.5 from Charlotte to Charlottesville. And I was able to do it in the shorter time frame most of the time.
We're not going to ask
Also
any
depended if
questions
the
about that.
cops didn't catch him.
Yeah, we won't ask any questions.
So I imagine then, no relocating, just staying in that house.
Yeah, this is where we're going to be, at least in the near term. My first couple of retirement projects. One, we tore out all of the bushes and shrubbery on one side of the house and put in new bushes and shrubbery, put a new driveway in. I didn't put the driveway in. I did the landscaping. That wasn't too difficult. And then I had a young 20-year-old kid who helped me rebuild the lower level of our 3-level deck. I was very good at demo. I took out the old deck. We reframed and then placed all the new deck boards, rebuilt the bottom layer. And in the spring, when it warms up, we'll build the top layer. That will be the easiest of the 3 levels, and then probably bow out and let somebody professional do the middle level.
Just give us a timeline of kind of your career as a swimmer, where it took you, and then kind of like we'll take it from there in terms of like how you kind of, got into assistant coaching and stuff like that.
I swam for a team called the Mainline YMCA, which became the Upper
Mainline YMCA.
Mainline Y, but the team that I swam for was housed in a 4-lane, 25-yard basement pool in Ardmore, Pennsylvania. I was an average high school swimmer until my senior year, and I blossomed in my senior year and was recruited late, actually, because I had a great YMCA national meet. And UVA contacted me, even though it was late March of that year, and asked me if I would come down for a trip. So my dad and I and my close friend and his dad, we all drove down. I was very impressed with the university, obviously. Coach Good, Ron Good was the coach, a young guy, young coach, aggressive, great recruiter. He wound up getting both Bill and I to commit to attending the University of Virginia. So I swam there, had a good college career. I would say I was a good swimmer. I wasn't a great swimmer, but I loved the sport. I loved the process. And I improved dramatically again through the career, the college career. Got my undergraduate degree from the McIntire School of Commerce, and I went to work for Procter & Gamble for 2 years. And I was in their sales division, the foods division. And I had some exciting projects. We introduced Pringles potato chips.
Big favorite of Aubrey's.
But there was only one flavor
One flavor, right.
that time.
And that can, that was
Very unique, and it was a great sales experience, a great marketing experience. Because I was on one of those intro teams, they put me on the Folgers coffee introduction to the East Coast. Folgers had only been sold west of the Mississippi. So they had picked out certain areas which heavy coffee drinkers, and Maxwell House was the brand, had 95% market share. And our job as sales reps was to get Folgers in the stores, on the shelves, and prominently displayed. And I was up in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and all of the north central part of Pennsylvania was my territory. So I'd done that for about 9 months, and then I decided I wanted to go back to graduate school because specifically I missed swimming. I missed competition. I missed the emotion of all of that and the enjoyment and the excitement. So I called Coach Good and said, I'm going to apply to grad school. Could I help you if I'm admitted? I'd love to. And he didn't have an assistant. I knew he was going to say yes. He was all by himself. Not only did he say yes, he said yes, and I'll give you $1,000.
wow, yeah, seal the deal.
Wow. There we go.
I gave up a $1,000 a year job with a car to go back to graduate school for $1,000.
Was Folgers the one that was good to the last drop?
No, that was Maxwell House.
That was Maxwell House. So what was Folgers? They had something.
We had, what was that old lady's name? Mrs. Olson.
Okay.
We had Mrs. Olson. So the red can with yellow and white.
Did you ever get to meet Mrs. Olson?
Never, no.
Okay, she just somebody made up.
I didn't last long enough.
So when did you meet Terry? Was she UVA, post UVA?
So I finished my master's degree in education in 78. Coach Good left the program in 78. Gene Corrigan was the athletic director, and he called me in and he said, "I'm going to interview you. Not because I'm going to hire you, I'm not. But I'm going to interview you because I know you want to be a coach, and just interviewing will help you." So I took the interview. I did well. It was a positive experience for me. I think it was a good interview. He called me in a couple days later and said, "We've decided on who we're going to hire. I told you you weren't going to get the job, and you didn't. But I want you to continue coaching, because down the road you'll be a good coach one day." So I accepted that. They brought another gentleman in, announced his hire, and 3 days before the semester began, his wife decided she did not want to move, and she did not want to uproot her family. So I got a phone call, and he said, "What are you doing right now? Come to my office. I have a problem." So I went to his office, and he said he wanted to bring me on an interim basis, 1 year only, and then he would evaluate how I did. 50% of my job was teaching. I taught beginning swimming, I taught life-saving, and I was the aquatics director. So 50% of my salary came from the physical education department at UVA, because back in the day, you had to have 2 PE credits to graduate. And so coaches taught a lot of classes. So to make a long story short, after 1 year, he called me in and said, "You did a good job. I'm going to let you have a second year." Wow. And, 2 years turned into 35 years. So totally unheard of, a complete, yes, I was the right person at the right place. I was learning by the seat of my pants. I did have a lot of recruiting experience, because in the 2 years that I was assistant coach, that was one of my major responsibilities.
I'm a grad assistant right now, so who knows what my journey will shape out to.
What did Terry think of that?
Well, she didn't know. I hadn't met her yet. I did not meet. Okay. This was 1978.
So she knew what she was buying into when she finally met you. No surprises or anything?
She learned what she was buying into. So we met in 84. And another interesting story, since we're allowed to tell stories, Beth O'Connor, who was one of my first great swimmers, an All-American butterflyer, IMR sprinter from Richmond.
A Richmond girl, Aubrey.
Yeah, they were in grad school together, Terry and Beth were. And Beth had told Terry, "I want to introduce you to my coach." And Terry said, "No, that's not necessary. I don't want to have anything to do with a coach." But they were playing racquetball one day in the same building the old pool was. And Beth dragged her into my office and said, "Mark, this is Terry, and you should really take her out on a date. I've told her all about you." Very subtle.
Good for Beth.
Wow.
Yeah. So
direct.
And I just said, "Well, since I've been told to take you out on a date, I'll take you out on a date. How about we have a date?" And so that led to 2 years of dating, and then we got married.
Great story. I'm a follow-up kind of person. Did you convert the UVA athletic department to Folgers copy?
I did not. I've never had a cup of coffee in my life.
But the other people, surely you were thinking of them. No push there?
There was a coffee maker in the office, and
I got it.
They could do whatever made them happy.
I can't imagine how many mistakes I would have made as a very, very young coach at that age. As a matter of fact, if you had any advice to offer to a young coach who was thrust into a job like that, what advice would you offer them?
I would tell them to ask as many questions as they possibly could of their head coach. The second thing, and probably more important because today's world is much different than the coaching world I entered, I would have them spend a lot of time with their sport supervisor, because it's a vastly different world. Gene Corrigan said to me, "Make sure their grades are good, make sure they get better in the pool and compete hard and keep them out of trouble. He said those are the 3 most important things you can do. Virginia was very average in the sport of swimming.
And Virginia as a state was extremely average in the sport of swimming.
So we built it. There was a lot of building, a lot of hustling. I went out and recruited on the road. We had a terrible budget. I used to spend the night. Sometimes I would spend the night in my car when I went on recruiting trips, sleep in the car, wake up, wash my face in a rest stop or go to a hotel, use the downstairs of a hotel restroom, clean up and go make my visits. I spent nights with friends when I was in a town where, there was no hotels, drove my own car, spent my own money to try to get the thing to where it was pretty good. And I was really fortunate. My first class that I recruited, it was the team from 1983, had Beth O'Connor, Andy Wren, another great Richmond swimmer, Ann Cosgaria, a tremendous swimmer out of Philadelphia area, Scott McClellan, another great swimmer, Scott Meredith, Sheila Sullivan, Tom McComas, and Ray Brown out of Loyola. I kept everything in the Mid-Atlantic region and the state of Virginia. I did not recruit beyond that 4 to 4.5 hour car ride from UVA. The class of 83 was magnificent. They came in, they worked really, really hard. And by the time they had graduated, both teams were in the top 25. We had male and female All-American athletes, and we at least had a foothold that we could move forward from.
So no big mistakes that you would say, hey, don't do that, anything you would offer to a real young coach. I mean, other than you obviously offered a positive thing, hey, this is what to do. But to any young coach, let's even say an age group coach, anyone taking over a program at a young age.
I think you have to distance and separate yourself socially from your athletes. I think that's critical.
What do they say? What do they say in the Marines? Officers don't shower with the men?
Yes. Yeah, there's other things that they say in business about the payroll, but we don't have to talk about that.
Did you realize, would you consider that maybe one of your mistakes as a young coach was not hiring me since I was in English graduate school there at the same time?
I wasn't aware. I knew you were in English graduate school, but it was years down the road before I knew it. Do you know who I did hire, who was my first assistant, again, on a part-time basis, was Steve Parker.
Coast Guard. Absolutely, yep.
Yep. He was also a grad student, and that's who helped me out to begin with. Then my second hire was a guy named Dean Watkins, and he was a school teacher in Charlottesville, so he would come over after school, and he did a terrific job working for us.
And he remained with you for a whole number of years, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
Dean was there for a long time.
Long time, yeah. But he was always a school teacher.
How is it that at that time when I got there, how was it that 2 Italian types, Bernardino and DeFazio, ruled the Charlottesville swimming community at that time? Was there something I was missing there?
You didn't have a vowel at the end of your name. Otherwise, you would have been set.
So I could have gone with Brownio or something like that?
Yeah, if you had been Browno, you would have been.
That brings up another story. You told this to me, but I want you to tell it to everybody else. We call it getting into the way, way back machine. So we're going to get into the way, way back machine here. Now, you told me once, let's talk immigration. You said that someone at Ellis Island, I presume it was Ellis Island, changed your family name. Go ahead.
Correct. The family name is Bernardini with an I.
And with that R.
With the R, Bernardini.
So those Anglo-Saxon types, they didn't get rid of that R. They managed to leave that in there.
They left the R there. And Bernardini means little Bernard. And somewhere along the line, we lost our identity and became Bernardino.
And are there relatives in, have you ever run into the Bernardinis?
There are relatives in Castignano, Italy. That's who I was on the phone with yesterday. A gentleman named Lorenzo Galizzi, whose mother is Luigini Bernardini. She is my second cousin.
Wow.
So we have tracked them down. We've done a lot of work to find our people. And yesterday I met Stefani Bernardini, who's a third cousin person removed.
They won't be disappointed in you because of the O, will they?
But it's funny they've brought that up, and they call me Marco Bernardini.
Good for them.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they have my grandfather's birth certificate.
There we
That
go.
is great. So a couple more UVA things. Now, did you ever swim in Mem Gym for a practice, or did you ever coach one there? Because you said you had a 4-lane pool at the mainline Y, and I presume when they went to the upper mainline Y, they weren't in the 4-lane pool, hence the upper. But Mem Gym Adventures?
First 2 years as a college swimmer were in Mem Gym.
Wow.
So when they closed that pool down, I held the pool record in the 200 butterfly in Mem Gym.
Was that a 20-yard pool or a 25-yard pool?
25 yards.
Because the William and Mary Blow Gym was a 20-yard pool.
I swam in Blow Gym also.
So you that line on the bottom when you came past, and I guess, I don't know what you did through your head. I don't know if they put a ribbon in or whatever, but I remember seeing that. So that was kind of interesting.
I swam in Villanova's old pool, Aubrey.
Did you really?
6
Wow.
lanes.
Yep. Yeah. It's gotten a little better since then. Now it's a 10-laner.
Yes, you had the,
Wow.
was it the DuPont? No, it's been renamed, right?
Yes, it's we always called it like the Villanova Swim Complex, but it is renamed.
Okay,
Something. Just can't remember. So do you know Rick Simpson?
I do. Yeah.
He's an interesting character.
He's been there a long time.
He has. Yeah. I think this is like his 20. He says some crazy number every year. I think this is like his 25th year there, something like that.
It's got to be in his 20s because he brought his team down. We swam them at UVA back in the early 2000s.
Okay. They actually just finished swimming. They swam JMU and then Richmond. So they did a nice little Virginia tour. His wife is Todd DeSorbo's sister. So,
I never knew that.
Yeah. Yes.
The moral of this story is if you coach long enough, you become an interesting character by default.
So you started coaching at the U-Haul pool. Was that the first 8-lane pool in Virginia?
I think it was. No, Briarwood had an 8-lane pool before UVA did.
But it was the first collegiate 8-lane pool.
I'm trying to remember when Old Dominion's pool was built.
Oh, that's right. That was the other one.
So I can't confirm that it's the first. U-Haul was built in 1972. So I swam the last meet in Mem Gym. I swam the first meet in U-Haul. I coached the last meet in U-Haul. And I coached the first meet in the AFC.
Talk about that new facility when it first opened and what it kind of meant to you and the rest of the program.
Yeah, that opened in the summer of 1996. And that really propelled, I mean, as a coaching staff, we'd been begging for a facility upgrade. Felt if we could get a better facility and we could get some scholarship help, we could go on a good run and become pretty consistent in terms of a strong ACC program and a good solid top 10 to top 20 national level team. But we needed that pool. That pool was a huge difference maker in helping the team and the program take the next step forward.
And was AFC, was that run by athletics or was that run by recreation?
That was, and I think not probably is no longer, I shouldn't even say, I don't know. It was run by recreation, but we were the first priority. We had pool priority hours, the varsity swim teams. Really, that's all we needed. We wanted priority from 6 till 8:30 and 2:30 till 5:30. Those were the hours we were given.
Was it the pool space or was it the 50-meter pool? Or was it just the overall impression of a large venue that helped?
Jeff, I think it was the pool space, because in the other pool I was running 2 afternoon sessions. I would run sprint practices in the diving well, sometimes to alleviate the stresses on the pool. But the level of athlete that we were starting to recruit in the late 80s and the early 90s, they wanted a 50-meter pool. We were losing good swimmers because we did not have a facility that was the equal of the other top programs.
Because when you got that facility, I mean, I think that pretty much within reasonable time of that being built, that kind of began a reign of dominance in the ACC for you guys, where you guys were, it just seemed to push you over the hump and you guys started winning almost all the time at that point.
That's correct. Yes.
From being a good swim coach, that a good warm up was always necessary, and then a nice little preset is always smart before we really get into the meat and the potatoes. So this next segment, like Jeff said, is called swimming and sipping. So first one is, if you could ban one pool habit forever, what's gone immediately?
Grabbing on the lane lines and pulling on them.
I like that one. That bugged me as well. I got roasted in the first one. Oh, it's a great answer. First, let's do our toast to the great answer. One of the guys I used to coach with, he said he could never understand that I never bothered about two-hand touches, but pulling on the lane line always bothered me. And Grace Shebley, if you're watching this, you know what I'm talking about.
And my second bugaboo was not having two hands on your turn walls.
Oh, well, okay. I'm bad. Good one. I like that one. That's a good one.
I know you talked about, your career with Pringles and, Folgers and all that, the sales. If being a swim coach never worked out, what would you be doing, or what, like, I know if you say your dream job was swimming, what would be second to that?
My master's degree was in counselor education, higher ed. So if I were not coaching swimming, I would have been a dean at a university,
Nice.
an academic dean.
So we'll toast that one, and we'll recall the most famous dean of all time, who I believe was Dean Wormer in Animal House.
Yes, he was.
So to the deans.
All right, to the deans. And at UVA during your time, Dean Bob Canavari and Dean Ernie Earn. Those were the two famous deans at UVA during the 70s.
Jeff spent a lot of time
I never
with
met
them.
either of them. I was a graduate student. I was like in a different lab. I was someplace out there. I don't know where I was half the time.
All right, favorite place you have visited on a swim trip?
Favorite place?
Mm-hmm.
Beijing.
Beijing, okay. Why Beijing?
This was in 2001 when we took the World University Games team there. It was before 9/11, and we went 10 days prior to the meet to adjust, and we were able to stay 2 days after the meet. And the day after the meet, we climbed the Great Wall, and we were on the Great Wall for hours and hours. We hiked 6 or 7 miles on the Great Wall. It was incredible. And just the city of Beijing was fascinating. The history. We were able to see quite a bit of the city a little bit before the competition and the 2 days after. It was extraordinarily special how the swimmers were treated there.
Did you get to visit the Forbidden City?
Yes.
Did you have to do the ritual kowtow?
No.
You know about that, right?
I do not.
When anyone approached the emperor, when they got in the Forbidden City, had to pretty much walk on their knees to come to the emperor's presence. So that was yeah. I don't know how far I could have gotten on that. Ouch, that might have hurt. That was a good one. All right, to Beijing, to the Great Wall, and to the University Games.
All right, and to wrap up this little segment here, who would you, out of anybody there alive, who would you want to share a cocktail with the most?
I'd love to share a cocktail with my mom and dad, but let's take family out of it. Mickey Mantle.
Boy, number 7.
Number 7, New York Yankees was
Baseball
my
guy.
favorite. He was my favorite baseball player, and he was a bit of a wild man, so he had a reputation for being a booze hound. So I would like to have a beer with him.
Aubrey, there's a bunch of Mickey Mantle stories, but one of the best ones that we can tell on here very easily was one time he had tied on, as Mark said, he was famous for going out on benders, and he was injured and he thought he wasn't going to play. And so he tied one on the night before, and he pretty much was sitting in the dugout, and all of a sudden Ralph Hounk said, Mantle, we need a pinch hitter. So Mantle went up there and he's pinch hitter, and he's just sitting there going, gee, looking around. And he thought, well, he just said, I'm basically going to take a mighty swing at it. And somehow Mantle hit a home run. And he ran around the bases, kind of staggered around the bases, came in, and all his teammates were going, gee whiz. And he got in the dugout, and he's like, wow. And the people called him out for second round of applause. So he went out there and he waved to the crowd. They were all applauding. And he goes, geez, they don't know how hard that was. And then he ducked back under. So I'm sure there are a lot of Mickey Mantle stories like that. Anyway, Mark, before we go on to get back to swimming, you want to give your family a little bit of time here. You mentioned your parents. So let's talk. And I know, gee whiz, with all these people in Italy, we gotta cut, we're going to reconnect with them. But talk about the people who are related to you, your direct family, how long you've been married. I think we've got an idea how long you've been married, but tell us about your children, their whereabouts, if you care to share.
Yeah, we have 4 kids. Oldest to youngest, Kathleen. She lives in West Orange, New Jersey, has a 6-year-old daughter. Harper. Megan, our second oldest, lives in Midlothian in Richmond. She has 2 children, a 4-year-old Henry and a 1-year-old Lola. Kathleen has her undergraduate and master's degrees from UVA. She's a special ed master's. Megan has undergraduate history degree from UVA, master's of library science from South Carolina. Michael, our third oldest, also lives in Midlothian. He has a 1-year-old Madeline, UVA degree, and he works for Cushman Wakefield, a construction. He's a project manager, and his client is CoStar, which is headquartered in Richmond. And our youngest, Kevin, lives in Charleston. He also has a UVA degree. He works for GoodRx. He's a data analyst.
Well, if you come down to visit the guy in Charleston, no excuse. You got to call me up. We either meet in Charleston or you can come down here.
Yeah,
we'll figure out some way to get together.
Your town is Beaufort?
Well, it's Bluffton, which is basically, most people would say, we're on the mainland from Hilton Head Island. Okay. It takes us about 20 minutes to get to Savannah and about 2 hours to get to Charleston. So if you're in that area, you
don't want to visit him. It's not fun. It's not fun.
He's been there.
I already know you visited him, Aubrey. You can't even talk. You visited and stayed an extra day if I heard right on that podcast.
I was forced to.
Yeah. See, he was doing he's a coach. He's doing his scouting as well. So he knows all about you, Aubrey. He probably knows your time and things. So all that. Well, that's great hearing about your children. Let's go on and ask a couple quick questions. And you're a college coach, and I know, no offense to divers, but you've coached at a couple of places where the upper end diving facilities just haven't been available. I know the facilities at South Carolina were probably a little bit better. But do you like that combination of diving and swimming for the NCAA championships? And I don't think you can offend anybody now.
I can't offend anybody now. There are times when I liked it. Most of the time I didn't like it. I think in today's world where college sports are going, I'm not going to advocate to see anything eliminated. But if it came down to athletic directors saying something's got to give, it isn't going to be swimming where I come from. But diving needs swimming, in my humble opinion.
Swimming does need diving, but diving needs swimming.
Yeah, and it's fine. I understand how the game goes. It's always gone that way, and you have the right as a coach to prioritize diving. And nowadays, with 30 scholarships, your roster can be as large as 30. There's no 9.9 or 14 anymore. In theory, you can give 30 scholarships. You'd be stupid not to invest some of that money in diving.
Yeah.
And only 18 can go to the meet. So if you have 20, you'd be foolish not to have at least 2 full scholarships and invested in diving.
Let's go to kind of age group swimming and college aquatics. At UVA, there's no age group club team there that swims there. At NC State, does MOR swim there? Marlins of Raleigh?
Marlins of Raleigh, Yoda, they both use that facility at times, yes.
Okay, and then at USC, Gamecock Aquatics. So talk about that just, positively or negatively, kind of your opinion on that. I know Campus Rec may be the kind of kingmaker here.
Absolutely, positively, unequivocally. If I were allowed to have had a club team swimming in UVA's pool, I would have wanted that. So Jeff used to bring Nova Aquatics on Saturday mornings up to our pool so they could get some long course training in and swim for a couple of hours, Aubrey. I don't know when that stopped, 2008 maybe? Was that the last Olympic trials you brought them up for, Jeff?
I don't really remember when we stopped that, but it went on for a number of years. Always good to see you on a Saturday morning,
Yeah, and it was great. And I wish we had had the opportunity to have a club team in the pool, but we could not. Recreation and intramurals superseded. And I knew that. That was the way it was. I don't know whether it's still like that or not because kayak is now Cavalier Aquatics. So there may be some practices during the week or maybe on a weekend that Cavalier Aquatics are allowed to use that facility, especially with Todd being the man.
Well, I think Todd's son swims for Cavalier, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
And they've certainly profited with some swimmers there. Let's talk recruiting if we can. And look, I guess, memorable stories here. Did you have anyone ever overstay their recruiting weekend? What was it, 48 hours?
Yes.
Did you have anyone who overstayed their recruiting weekend by 48 hours?
No. That was a rule
No, I mean, well, let me rephrase the question. Was there anybody at the beginning of their recruiting weekend that you would have gone, we're not touching this person?
Prior to them arriving?
No, when they got there, did they convince you that they were
That you
not
did not want to continue?
Yes.
Many.
Can you offer some advice here so students don't do this?
Many. You never get a second chance to make a first impression. There were more than a few that within hours we went, oh no, this is it. We're not going to recruit them anymore.
Did anyone put their feet up on your desk and light a cigar or anything like that?
Not that I recall. Should I?
No, I don't know. I was just kind of asking if there was anything like, well, this was
No.
kind of, so there were some ones that early on, they gave off some signals that this is done.
Yeah, and sometimes on Saturday night, when we picked them up on Sunday, we knew what they were up to on Saturday night.
So swimmers should behave themselves.
They should behave themselves. There was even an occasion when we had to go find a male recruit elsewhere.
Okay,
No
elsewhere, indeed. Okay, so we're going to go in the way, way back machine. Let's talk the Florida State upset in 1995. So, I did some research on that, and I thought, gee, that year and this year were the only 2 years UVA won, but apparently they won other years. So that was kind of crazy. When they rushed the field that night, were you there at the game?
I was there with my whole family.
Were you worried knowing that some of the swimmers and some of the recruits were in that crowd?
They were in that crowd.
And what were your thoughts?
I worried? I don't think I was worried. I'd never seen the field rushed at UVA, so I didn't know what rushing the field meant and what the dangers it could have presented. So I wasn't worried, but as it turns out, they were in the thick of it. Some of them were literally hanging on the goalpost as it was coming down.
I heard that one of the Nova swimmers who was there that weekend was on one of those goalposts.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, I don't know how it is that you're not even there and you feel the goalpost. You're not even yet a student there, and somehow you're hanging onto a goalpost. But,
the field was the place to be at the end of that game.
Well, when they came home, a bunch of them up there that weekend. They said, we're going to UVA. And I was like, well, you do. I mean, no matter where they were going, I'd always, kind of go, you sure? And I said, you do realize they're not going to upset Florida State every weekend. They were like, oh, that was so amazing. So I know it must have been a great recruiting weekend. How many recruits did you have there that weekend?
I think we had a lot. We may have had as many as 14 or 15 kids there that weekend.
Jeez. And did you get a bunch of committals from those kids?
We did. That was was that Emily Carrig? Who else was in that group?
I think Dawn's son, John Farmer, was there.
John Farmer was there. But the Farmers had season tickets anyhow, so he was there frequently. But yeah, there were a good number.
So, but you were also at UVA during the Ralph Sampson, Jeff Lamp, Lee Raker era. And I'm asking that question because a lot of people don't know who they are. They might know Ralph Sampson, but these were three guys who were pretty big recruits. I mean, Raker, they were pretty happy to get. And then suddenly they got Lamp. And Lamp was a much bigger recruit than Raker. And I think it was the year after they got Sampson or 2 years after. I don't know what it was. But anyway, did having powerful major sport teams help your recruiting?
It did.
Was that a factor at NC State, South Carolina? What did you see there?
It is a factor. At UVA, we weren't good in football till Coach George Welsh came, and it took him a year or two to turn it around. So we preferred not to bring too many recruits in during football season. We would bring them in during basketball season because U-Hall was a small enough venue that it was always packed and it was always full of energy.
My first year as a graduate student there, I could walk over there and get a ticket. That was before those guys arrived. After that, what you were talking about.
Yes. You were not there in the Park Hill era, Barry Park Hill. You missed that. You were there in the Wally Walker era.
I saw the guy I remember most watching, because I played a lot of basketball at the time, was Spanarkel from Duke.
Yeah,
I was impressed with how deceptive that guy was up close. He didn't look that good on TV, but down on the floor, I was like, holy, moly, this guy would be tough to guard.
Yeah.
He was quite, but that was where I saw him. I think Park Hill was already gone by then. We're
Yeah, he
talking,
would.
Aubrey, we're talking UVA players that, kind of were in the era when UVA went from being not so good to becoming really good.
Yes.
So did you ever have a chance to stand back to Sampson?
Sampson, because, he had horrible knees. He would
Right.
swim in the U-Haul pool all the time. He would come over frequently to do his rehab, or that was his form of training. He would walk. It was 4 feet deep at one end, 6.5 feet deep at the other, Aubrey. And he would just walk. And I would literally stand on the pool deck eyeball to eyeball with him when he was down in the pool. And I was on the deck, and I would talk to him. So yes, I stood next to him when he would get out many times.
Well, I was a graduate student then, and I passed Lamp and Sampson walking together. And Mark, these guys were taller than advertised.
Yes.
I know what they were listed at. They were taller than that. I mean,
Yes.
I looked at Lamp and I was like, he's not 6'6". He was bigger than that. That was
they
just
were-
my impression.
They were huge men. I was always stunned at how physically large their biceps, triceps, and deltoids were. They look skinny on the court, but when you're right next to them, their arms were enormous.
Yeah. Yeah, that can happen.
Rumor has it that Jeff was front page fodder on the Cavalier Daily. Apparently, they were marveling at like an idiot riding a bike in frigid weather. So they said, "Do you remember that at all? Did you see it or save it by any chance?"
I don't remember it.
Yeah, good.
There you
'Cause
go.
a lot of people
All my
probably
shit.
burned
Frame it?
that.
No, it's sitting in the attic over here. You kidding? I kept a copy, whatever. And I didn't even know about it, Mark. Graduate student, you're out on a wing, and I walked in and people were kind of looking at me in a funny way, because I parked my bike and got off, and I saw a lot of people looking at me. I didn't think anything of it. I went to graduate school class and people go, "Hey, you're on the front page of the newspaper." I go, "What newspaper?" And they go, "Cavalier Daily." So I went back, got a copy, and went, "It is me. That is me." So I was good to go there. So next question is, and this is kind of a legendary thing and something that everyone can be interested in and may not even know about. Easter's, the great, much lamented party at UVA. You were actually there in the heyday, weren't you?
And I fully participated.
There we go.
Can you tell us something about not your personal participation, but describe this party so that people can understand what it entailed?
There is Rugby Road and Madison Lane, which housed all of the fraternities. And every fraternity had a band, and every fraternity had endless alcohol, and every fraternity had hoses out, and they would mud down. Everything was moistened and wet down, and then down in Mad Bowl, there would be bands playing. Women came in it was an all-male school until 1970, so between 70 and 74, when I was there, the highest percentage of women that were ever part of the university may have only been 25 to 30. So women from JMU was all female, Collins College, Mary Baldwin, Mary Washington. They would all come for the weekend, and it was just a mosh pit. It was a free-for-all. It was as much fun as you were allowed to have in 48 hours you could have. My very first freshman year, I didn't know much about it. I walked over there wearing white slacks. We called them chinos back then. They probably called Dockers or something like that. And I was thrust into the mud pit. This nice pair of pants that I had was absolutely destroyed. All your clothes were destroyed. And you would go back to the dorms, and everybody was coated and covered in mud, and you're all in the showers, everybody hosing down and hosing the mud off themselves. The amount of alcohol that was consumed, beyond phenomenal.
Well, UVA was the legendary party school, mostly
Number one.
because of Easter's. Absolutely.
Wow.
Now, were you in the era where you actually wore a tie and a coat?
When I arrived, yes, and I did for about a week. And I'd gone to a Catholic school, so I had to wear coat and tie every day, a sport coat, a blazer. But after about a week, I said, no, I'm not doing this, so I stopped wearing a coat and tie.
But was that tradition still there?
That tradition was still there. And in the comm school, in the McIntyre School of Commerce, we did our presentations in coats and ties.
Okay, because Aubrey, that was a thing where a lot of the students would go to class at one point, and it was a gentleman's school, and they were, blazers and...
Yep, blue blazer.
blazers and khakis,
Khakis.
and a nice tie.
It's a different world
Absolutely.
today.
Yes, it is.
So you've coached some second-generation swimmers at the collegiate level, correct?
Yes.
Have you coached any now? Given the young age at which you started, did you coach or recruit any third generations?
No.
Okay.
I did not get to that point.
And what was it like coaching the second generations?
It was pretty phenomenal. The Purdue girls were Phil Purdue, Richmond, a great swimmer from
Right.
Richmond. I coached them. The Wrens were second generation. They were Mike Wren's sons, but their uncles, Andy and Matt, swam for me. I coached a second generation at NC State. Laura Morello, her mom was a Wanger. So,
Yes. Yeah, she swam at Nova for a little bit.
Yep. So over the years, I coached second generation swimmers, and there was the farmers, the shrums. There was never a negative, always a positive.
That must have been. It was always interesting when we had some.
So being a coach, not a lot of people in that position necessarily think about, the academics. And so as a coach, some academic choices don't necessarily mix well with the swimming careers. And as a coach, we get that, especially, me being a GA, only being at Millersville for a couple months, it's prominent to see, stuff like that. For you, which majors presented difficulties for your athletes at any schools where you coached?
Architecture and nursing.
And was that just because the hours, or just kind of what they had to do?
Well, architecture, because so many of their studios and their labs were from 2 to 6 o'clock, and so many of their study hours or their drawing hours are late into the evenings. And nursing, because after 2 years, their clinical work took them away from practice hours.
Nursing is huge at Villanova, and so junior and senior year, it was all makeup times for them.
Yep. You could get 2 good years out of architecture and 2 good years out of nursing. And there were a couple that survived and did it, but for the most part, we would lose them.
That was probably something you didn't know about until they got there. I mean, there's a sense of, oh, I'm interested in this, but you never know. And then there they go. So it was something you really couldn't anticipate, could you?
With a couple of the architecture and the nursing students, we knew that was their ultimate academic goal. And we had a few that pulled it off. We had a few in each major that pulled it off, but the majority who either became interested in one of those 2 fields or who started in those 2 fields couldn't do both successfully.
I remember when you're an age group coach in a program, and the age group coaches talk, and people would always say, oh, somebody said, Mark Bernardino is not interested in anybody in the Virginia LSC. I was like, well, what? Why do you say that? Because the Wrens were there, Phil Purdue was there, and it was just that, that sense of, I think sometimes if you want to speak to that and just, how recruiting goes, because I always felt that you paid a lot of attention to the Virginia LSC. They were just what you were looking for. And when you saw it, you went after it.
Yeah, that's correct. Ultimately, a college coach, regardless of the sport, is judged on performance, wins and losses, and you have to put the best athlete on your team regardless of where they're from. But we always wanted and hoped to get the best swimmers from the state of Virginia to stay in Virginia. That wasn't the case, certainly, or to attend UVA. Plenty of them went to Virginia Tech or JMU or other schools. But you get to the point where you have to look at several things. So you would look at what place would that, whatever time they've produced up until their senior or junior year of high school, how does that place in the conference? How does it fit a team need? Sometimes you had 2 or 3 great 200 butterflyers, and even though this swimmer in whatever LSC they are, and even though they're really good and they're really interested, they're number 4 on your depth chart. And it was more important to have a number 2 breaststroker than a number 4 butterflyer.
Well, my answer was always, well, maybe regardless, maybe we need to work harder to produce better swimmers for him, was kind of my answer. I just kind of shrug my shoulders and go, well, it's kind of on us, isn't it? We have to do better as coaches. It wasn't just a one-way street. So no. I don't want to put you on the hot seat for that.
It's not a hot seat because Virginia was blessed with good swimming. And they say the Virginia LSC, but I also had to go up to Northern Virginia and recruit, and that was a different LSC. So we were still getting good Virginia athletes. They just weren't in the Virginia LSC. They were in the Potomac.
Well, I think the Virginia LSC got a lot better in the 90s and beyond. Before then,
Correct.
I think the pickings were a little bit slim. They were there, but they were whatever. One of the interesting things you did is you went from being a head coach to being assistant coach. And what I find interesting is you started working with somebody who was an incredible assistant coach themselves at one point in time, Braden Holloway. And he literally had done so much at Virginia Tech. And I think when he had the opportunity to get you, he probably did a backflip. It was, so what was it like working to go and to embrace that role as an assistant coach?
He's the best coach I've ever been around. Amazing, creative, enthusiastic, energetic, outside the box thinker. It was a no-brainer. To be honest with you, the opportunity to work with two teams that were truly in a position to chase top 5 national finishes on multiple occasions, to think about winning national titles. An inquisitive mind, which was fun because we would have incredible discussions, the entire staff in that office. Great learning experience. So, me and Aubrey, that's something, and Jeff will tell you, hopefully we've never stopped learning as we aged in our profession. I think that it's such a dynamic profession. There are so many different ways to create greatness and to solve problems. So for me, working with both McGee Moody and especially with Braden, I mean, it was like I got to open a whole new book and read new chapters and experiment with new ideas. So couldn't have been a better experience.
I didn't mean to not mention McGee because he's a great guy too. Didn't he? Well, he wasn't he coaching at some really good school at one point in time?
He was at South Carolina.
Yeah, but before then, wasn't he? At
William and Mary, you betcha.
Yeah, that school. Okay.
That one.
Sorry there,
Hey, it is a great school.
McGee, we weren't dissing you there as far as that goes.
Doing some research on you and looking at all the articles that have been written about you, your reputation is that of kind of a distance coach. Is that fair to say?
Yes, I think that's absolutely very fair. I don't think I had the patience to stand and watch sprinters rest. There's too much time between explosive fast swims, and you had too much talking. I far preferred having the swimming athletes in the pool, seeing them work, seeing them it's not that sprinters don't work. They work a completely different way, which I really, really learned to the highest degree at NC State and at South Carolina, because Kevin Swander and McGee had a really unique mindset on how they coach sprinters as well. So, but yes, I certainly far prefer coaching middle distance and stroke, the 200s of stroke.
You think there's more creativity there in practice writing?
I did, until I saw some of the stuff that the sprinters at NC State and South Carolina did. That opened a whole new world. You can be very, very creative.
I mean, but when you started, you were probably coaching a lot. Weren't you responsible for all the groups at once when you were first started as head coach?
I was, yeah.
So you were.
There wasn't a lot of groups, Jeff. There was really. I did a poor job. I didn't do a great job of setting sprinters up for success. It just wasn't good. That's why Dean Watkins came and helped.
Yeah, I mean, I think they appreciate and they need that special touch.
Earlier, you talked about scholarships and money in the world of NCAA, and nowadays NIL is a huge word. That's kind of the talk of the town. And so, what is your take on NIL and its possible kind of future effects or cures? It's here, so you can't really diss that. But what's your take on it?
I think we need to be patient and see how it all plays out over the course of the next 5 years. I think football and basketball are going to consume the vast amount of NIL dollars. There's the revenue share piece of the puzzle as well. That's different from the NIL. I think Olympic sport athletes who are at the highest level, if it were the Caleb Dressel era, certainly a Gretchen Walsh. Well, of course, she's out now, but I'll bet she benefited, she deservedly so, from NIL. I don't know if it's sustainable. I scratch my head wondering for what happens when donor A provides an athlete with $1 million. They come in and then they aren't really good enough and they don't play. Does donor A get frustrated because I just gave $1 million to athlete A and they didn't get off the bench this year? I don't know whether that will happen or how they'll delicately move that around, but with the portal, now it's a 2-week window, one-shot opportunity. You have 15 quarterbacks out there and you get somebody to give you an NIL deal worth $1.5 million for this quarterback, and then that quarterback comes and doesn't pan out. I just don't know. I don't know the sustainability of it all if you get the wrong people angry and upset, the wrong donors angry and upset.
So you think that's going to blow back? Potentially could blow back on coaches, on athletic departments, and even even in the case of Olympic sports, on programs?
It could.
So as you said, 5 years. You're going to give it 5 years to see how it shakes out.
I just want to see how this thing shakes out for 5 years. I hope it works. I'm okay with student athletes being compensated. Are they being overcompensated? Probably.
If I had $1 million and I'm 20 years old, that wouldn't have been good. That would not have been good.
Yeah, there's a danger to that. But Jeff, they all have agents now. So in theory, if you hire an agent who is unscrupulous, who is honest, who is fair, who guides you the right way, and you get that $1 million, you can do some good things with it.
He doesn't let you have that $1 million is what that agent does.
Hopefully. But how about the lineman who's blocking for the $1 million quarterback and only getting $5,000? Is he going to step aside every once in a while and let that quarterback get clocked? I don't know if they have an argument.
What did Winston Churchill once say? He said it was good for morale when a general got killed in a war every once in a while.
He did say that.
Good for morale. Well, that agent thing kind of worries me because this guy is my agent for my book. He has agreed to help me on my book.
Jeff, if we're not talking this, then
there he is. So I think you're up to $24.31 or something like that. We have a revenue.
Don't spend it all in one place.
All that sort of stuff. Yeah, well, no, that's what I say to you. So just kind of to get to a little more personal questions, is there any other thing any advice you would want to pass on to young coaches other than come on this program if you get a chance?
Of course we would want them. I mean, it's a wonderful profession. Every day is a different day. There are so many learning experiences, so many growth experiences, so many opportunities to learn how to be a leader. Fewer and fewer leaders in this world. So many ways to hopefully positively affect the lives of young people. Put them on a path that maybe they wouldn't have found had it not been for the sport of swimming and the profession of coaching. So I would never, ever discourage someone from choosing coaching as a profession.
I think that leadership thing, that's a great point you make. That is a precious opportunity to have. And in coaching, you do get that.
Yes.
So I'm obviously a better coach than you when it comes to retiring, okay? My lead may be insurmountable. Do you think you can catch up? I've got a couple of years on you. Now, you're a competitive guy. Do you think you can catch up to me on retirement?
No.
That was just too easy.
That was an easy... No.
I know he's got to be plotting something, Aubrey. If he starts contacting you, tell me first. That's all I can say. So let me tell you, because it's nice to talk to somebody who's retired. Retirement is different. And this is my coaching you up a little bit, coach, on retirement. Am I allowed to do this?
You can try, because right now I would define it as being highly overrated.
I agree, but you will find things, and you need to find things to keep you busy. But one of the things is that you've coached, and we've been around young and healthy people all our lives. I work part-time at an Ace Hardware, which is right across the street from Sun City. And I see it is the University of Old is what it is, the people who come in there. So, and it's really, really different. I've studied up on it. I actually studied up on retirement. I've been watching videos, all sorts of things. And I would say, I look at things like 10 things you don't do after you get retired. Don't make these mistakes and all this sort of stuff. So I found that I am just almost busier than ever. You mentioned your project with the houses and the porches. Do you have something else coming up?
I'm literally leaving Thursday to go to Raleigh, and I'm going to substitute coach for 9 days for Marlins of Raleigh so that Paul Silver can go on a vacation.
Will you see Paul in passing?
Yeah, I'm going to stay at his house.
Please tell him I said hello.
I will for sure.
And please warn him that I'm probably going to hunt him down for this, and he better say yes.
He'd be good on this. But yes, I think it's critical to stay active. When I was in Home Depot one day, I checked in and to see if they accepted part-time workers, because if I'd be happy to do, whether it's stock shelves or uncrate things in the back, work in the lawnmower section, a couple
Well,
things.
we all talk about, it's good to take that step out of what you were in, and it's good, but we all talk about keeping busy. All the guys who are at ACE who are about my age are retired. And the retirement people age from the mid, I'd say the late 50s. And I think we have some people there who are probably approaching 80, but they're still, they come in, do their shift and all that good
Yeah,
stuff.
you got to move. Move it or lose it.
Absolutely. So, to close out on a kind of a personal note too, did we do okay?
Great. It was fun. If you said come back next year or next month or 6 months, I would do it again. This was fun.
You were apprehensive about coming on
I
here.
was.
And did we manage to relax you and all that?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Cran apple juice will do that every time.
So you think should we make swimming and sipping a part of everyone?
I actually think that's awesome.
Okay,
I think you should keep that segment forever.
What would you would recommend this experience to others?
100%.
And that is all we have time for today, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Mark, we really enjoyed talking to you and listening and learning about the lessons in your coaching career. If anyone would like to follow us on Instagram, it's _currentconversations_. Also, Jeff's book, An Unsentimental Journey, is available on Substack. Again, thank you all so much for listening, and catch us next week for episode 6. See ya.